Hey everybody, it's Funny. Everyone's going to hope you're doing well. Today we're with the Dirtywave M8, the mate. It is the Model 2 and it sounds like this. Okay, the Dirtywave M8 episode. So I've been putting this one off for a couple weeks here because not only I wanted to get more acquainted with it, learn some more about it, but also trying to think of a plan to try and touch on most everything on board here. The problem with that is there's so much on board here that even if I pretended to understand everything about the device, I could never cover everything in any reasonable amount of runtime. So I think the best way to go about this is to make a song together on camera, try and do it, and touch on my overarching thoughts, my own perspective, and everything while we do that. In saying that too, I'm no expert on this, obviously. There's so many content creators out there who are making amazing stuff, who are insanely fast. There's so many button combos available that the pros are using to level up their workflow, their experience, their ability to create stuff really fast that I'm not going to be using. You're probably going to be screaming out, oh, there's a shortcut for that I'm not aware of, and that's okay. I'm just here to give my own perspective on the device and try and have some fun with it, talk about it together. Talking about it from the perspective of someone who owned the Mark I previously, kind of bounced off of it, spent a lot more time in Eurorack since, and now I'm coming back to revisit again because who doesn't want an entire studio in a box, right? And I think in saying that too, the novelty of the interesting sequencer, it can be a learning curve, but it also feels in the context of when you're on the go with it, especially like kind of fun to achieve, right? Like it's a little bit like a puzzle to unlock, and I hate to make comparisons to, you know, a game and a Game Boy looking device, but I don't think there's any shame in it being that way, much less enjoying it. So let's see if we can't enjoy making a song together. So I'm going to try my best to talk about the workflow and what I'm doing because being a beginner myself too, watching a lot of these tutorial videos that people are going so fast with the button combos and, I'm trying to move like a tortoise. I'm going to try and explain what I'm doing here. So I think the best way to start with that is to talk about the overviews. So when you hold shift and use the arrow keys, you can navigate. Bottom right corner, we have basically our view here, which is a bunch of letters, which are the different views to navigate sort of the menus rather than like a linear menu. It's sort of spaced out horizontally and vertically. So if I hold shift, go up, we have our project settings. I'm going to actually start here before we talk about the other things and prepare things the way I like to see them. So let's bring our BPM up to, I don't know, let's go 140, a little slower than I usually do, but maybe that'll make it a little easier for us. Transposition here, we can actually globally transpose things. From this view, it's kind of like a performance tool, I guess. I'm going to leave that off for now. The groove here, now I thought this was sort of like adding a global swing, but this actually is, these are sort of saved grooves. So these are not increasing the swing, these are changing the groove value to different sets. The default being 0, which is actually probably where we're going to stay. One thing you want to do here, this scale is kind of like a global quantize. For me, this makes writing melodies a lot easier on here. So I'm just going to come in here and, I don't know, we'll do... so right and left arrows are cycling through the scales and up and down is cycling through the keys. So I'm going to force my scale basically into being D major. So live quantize, I'm not going to mess with any of that. I think we're just going to stick with the scale. MIDI settings, I'm not using any MIDI gear. We're just going to do this on here. Name our project. I'm going to come in here. If you hold edit, you can go down to random and it'll generate. I think they took this idea from the Polyend tracker originally, I believe, but we've got Weary Juice was what it, I don't know, it just pairs two words together. Presumably they're all preset, but I can go in and save. I'll save this to my songs, and then we'll keep going. Export and share stuff. This is pretty crazy. Like, again, you can create entire tracks on the go and then render them in here with a WAV. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing to be able to just write an entire song in here and bounce it, right? It is fully a DAW in my mind. You might want to do some mastering and stuff afterwards to make sure it's up to levels or to do fine tuning of all those things, but it really is like an entire studio in a box, right? Instrument pool, once we've assigned some stuff, we can go in here. I don't really use this too often, if I'm honest, so much so I don't know how to get out of here. Okay, well, let's get back and use our shift and navigate to scroll back to the project, and then I will not do anything else with the system settings. Go back to my song view. What I want to do, this is like song mode, but it sort of acts as like your workspace, as a scratch pad, if you will. I've seen in every different video I watched on this thing, people were using it in different ways, talking about how they assign their numbers differently, how they write their song structure, how they enter things and otherwise. One thing I want to start off before we get in here, to me, this is some of the quirkiness of the tracker workflow. If you hold edit, I'll come up here. What I want to do is bring this all the way up to the top. You can do step by step using left and right, or move in big increments using the up and down, which is something that's global, not limited to just the sequence view. I'm also going to misname things in this video. I hope you're okay with that. I'm referring to these pieces as sequences when really they are phrases, I believe. No, they're chains. They're chains. Yes. This is the song view. That is a chain. Then we have phrases. So when I said earlier that I don't use chains, that's not actually accurate. Chains are separate from tables, which we will not be getting into later. But anyway, what I was trying to say with all of this is that if you want to have if you want to take up blank space in your sequence, you kind of need to fill it with empty tracks. So I'm going to create an empty chain full of 4 phrases that are identical, and we're not going to put any notes in here. We just want to add an effect, which is kill. And you do that by holding edit, tapping up, and this is a sequencer effect. There are many, many effects. Effects aren't necessarily like audio effects. They are sequencer effects. They are mixer effects. They are nothing else in this view. I think there are instrument effects as well. But what we want to do, just so we have something to save space in my grid, basically in my table, in my song view, is put a kill on here so I can take up 4 chain of empty space. But I've just been always starting my projects off with that. So let's actually get to making some music with it. So if I hold edit, and this will default back to basically whatever you were working on previously, so it makes it easy to do a whole bunch of repeating, right? If I want to fill this all with a bunch of stuff, we can do that. And the way you delete things on the tracker is to use both buttons. And then, so I'm just going to delete all these things out here. But the way I've been doing it so far, and if there's a better way to do it, you let me know. I just make these all sort of aligned with their columns. So 10, 20, 30. And then I will go in there. If you hold shift and hit right, we are looking at chain 10. What I want to do is set my phrase down to, I don't know, we'll call it 10, and we'll go 10, 10, 10, 10, and then the last one will be 11. So notice another classic tracker thing is that everything's hexadecimal and like array based, meaning it starts on 0 and counts up. So the fourth bar is actually labeled as 3 because it starts at 0. Why? Because they want to be complicated, and just because it's how it's always been. So now we're in the phrase view. This is actually where the specific sequencing is happening, not at another level where we're sort of chaining it or arranging it or setting up the sequencing. This is where the actual notes and things go down. So what I want to do first is lay down a kick. So what I'm going to do is enter it manually. So if we just hit edit, plop it in, the default C4, velocity 64, instrument is 0. So I want to take my instrument up to 10 just to match the column which I'm working in, shift and go over to instrument 10. Don't have anything going on here, so let's get started. Let's go and hit play. So we're going to run our sequence, shift, play. You won't hear anything because we don't have an instrument, but what happens when we do load up instruments? So that's Wave Synth. Lots of these are based on mutable instrument software, which is really great. One thing I immediately noticed when I was jumping back in here was nobody talked about how great the synth engines are. Everyone's like, oh, it's for like slicing breaks and like making jungle or whatever. It's a very retro workflow and stuff, but like they have everything on here, right? And recently added was this hypersynth, which can do polyphony, which if we go up and set the interval to 5, sorry, I am in a negative down. Let's get back up to negative, up to positive 5, so add a fifth. And I love my super saws. Sub here too, like I don't know, I feel like I don't know why people aren't talking about how great these synth sounds, because like hearing this, coming back to it after so much time away, I was almost like taken aback by it and wondering like, should I just make these into my Eurorack pairing where my drums can be in Eurorack and then I'll just run some. It's like when it comes, because if I'm looking at this like a multi-timbral synth, it is like insanely powerful. And the other thing that I don't know if it was even this good when I had this previously or if I just ignored it completely. The modulation section is also really straightforward and I really appreciate that. So you can basically have 4 mods of either envelope or LFO variety. We'll just select attack, hold, decay envelope. We'll set the destination to volume. Make the decay longer. Like, subtractive synthesis on here is valid, is what I'm trying to say. And I realize that was a long and roundabout way to say it, but I'm like kind of blown away, right? When it comes to, you know, basic modular things that I really like, let's go to destination and instead of volume, let's go to the cutoff. The amount, like, to attenuate our modulation here is pretty easy. Like, why couldn't all of my other desktop synthesizers be the peak or other things be this easy, right? Like it's, anyway, I just completely forgot about that, and I feel like the discussion around the tracker is all about the portability, understandably, and the tracker, the sequencing itself, understandably, but like these synthesizers are really, really great. At least I'm a huge fan. We didn't come to this track to make a synth. What we did come here to do is a kick, so I want to throw 4 on the floor, and you'll see if I go through this, it shows all my cued phrases from here, so I can jump from 10 to 11 when I scroll all the way to the bottom. I want to throw some kicks down. I know I'm still listening to the synthesizer, but we'll change this up in a little bit. I just want to add sort of a little fill type of thing at the very end. Come in here and we'll load up a sample. Now I have samples on here of a bunch of different varieties. I took some Percon samples. Let's go bass. You can preview them by holding play. And I bought this recently, this pack from, I'm trying to remember the name of them. Wow, there's a lot of them. Where is the kick? Oh, bass drum is separate from the bass, sorry. Nice kick. Yeah, this is what I want. I want my tough Percons, is what they called it. Yeah. I talked about manually entering notes for the next part, which is going to be my snare drum. I will come in here and do some sort of Euclidean style filling of the grid. We'll enter our chain the same way, where there's like a fill. So I want to add some snares, but let's do it a little differently. I'll hold Shift and hit Option. It puts you in this green highlight for like multi-select view. I want to select the whole column, and then we'll hold Option and put right, which will fill it. And the more left you go, it's like a Euclidean fill, right? Like it's sort of trying to space them out evenly from the most dense to every step has a fill to getting down into less fill, and we want to do that, yeah. You can randomize the pitches as well using up and down, which is interesting for snares, which is definitely useful for melodies, but I don't know how this is going to look for snares, but let's find out. Listen to this kick. I haven't actually put this sample pack to use yet, so I'm stoked to do so. On that note, I'm going to not use a sampler again. Sorry, I'm looking at instrument 10. Another thing that I am chronically doing wrong. Let's make this instrument 20. Go over to instrument 20, and we want to load up. So what I actually have also bought the first time I owned this thing was the M8, not here, the DW01, which is a FM drum synthesizer pack, and these sound really, really nice. I'll talk about the FM machine in a moment, but we want to find a snare. It's funny hearing them side by side now. I'm noticing like there's a grit to the sample quality, probably from the import. I want to change the volume of my stuff a little bit here, so let's boost my kicks a little bit and turn down the snares a hair. Again, as always, bigger movements holding Shift and up and down, smaller movements side to side. And going over here, so I just loaded that from the pack that I bought. I'll pause this so you can hear me better. But they created this drum synth using the FM machine, which is crazy. I won't touch on that in too much depth. If you're an FM master, you might love the idea of just having this grid where you manually are entering all your ratios, and it's fun to noodle with, but man, that is a level of depth that is far beyond mine. But if you go into the mod as well, you'll see that they have all of that stuff lined up already, making that happen. So the stuff on that pack, I'm not trying to sell it to you. I don't do anything on this channel but lose money. That pack that they sell for like $10 is really useful. So let's go in and make some hats now. So we'll head over here. I want to make this chain 30, 30, 30, 30, and you can increase it by 1 by double tapping edit, so 31. To talk about some different things, go Shift, Option, fill this. Sorry, hold Option, fill. And I'll randomize the pitches a little bit. And then I want to add some effects to this one. So I want to add probability. So hold Edit, hit Up, go Sequencer, Effects, and Chance. Sorry, turn this down just a hair. And we want to hit Chance. So we'll hit play now. Because 20 was the last one I was on, we need to increase this to 30. Hit play, go over to you, come over here. Maybe we'll just again find one of our presets from that pack that I got. I don't know if you even call them presets or not, but here is Closed Hat 76. I was standing on 31, so maybe we want to fill some of these other ones. Hold Option. There we go. What I wanted to do with this one was make it more dense. I'll just manually add a couple triggers in here. We want to add chance effects. So Shift, Option, select that column, come in here, edit up, go over to sequencer effects, go to chance, let go, edit that. We will select the whole option and we'll add some chance. So we'll just increase our chance so it's 86. That should be good. So now we get just a little bit of evolving hi-hats for this one. So, and I'll leave the third one. Maybe I'll take off those. So I'll delete my chance for the 31st one so that the end of the phrase is always the same. So if I hold shift and hit play, it will play the entire sequence. So while I'm using one phrase, it's evolving a little bit, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is probably Duncan, probably a little more than it should, but you know what? That's kind of how I like to make my music. 40, we are this time going to make a melody before this video is insanely long, but one way I like to make my melodies is by generating them. I want to write a bass line without having to write it. I know, lack of skill. As always, hold shift, double tap option, come in here, and we're going to hold option, fill it, generate it up here so we have some octave range. I don't like seeing sevens in there. It's probably too much. Space it out a little bit more, randomize it. Now you hear we're on instrument 30 still. We want to change that. Select that column, bring it up to 40. And we'll go over here. And one thing I also wanted to point out, as much as I really like those other things, the samples, I believe that they include on this. I can't remember if these are the previous owners or the defaults. These are crazy good. Like CZ1? Yeah. JD800? Like they're speaking my language. 106? Like Moogs? And I know the workflow. Well, no two workflows on the... Oh, Oberheim. No two workflows on the M8 are going to be the same, but this is how I go about it. I know a lot of people kind of do their writing from loops, right? Which is totally valid. There's a whole world of 404s and stuff like that, right? Yes. A little bit of polyphony going on. And then you get a whole bunch of... I'm trying to restrain myself from going through every single... synth engine. I'm counting the sampler as that, right? But you can detune this, you can degrade it. There's so much to all this. All the mutable stuff. It's an entire studio on a freaking Game Boy, right? And it kind of inspires, for me at least, some video gamey stuff. And again, I say that with nothing but love because that's a wonderful thing. One thing you can also do here, so we only have one phrase looping. If we fill it out with 4 phrases and then transpose them, we can get some variation without having to write new things because I'm lazy. So there is so much else on here. Where do we even begin? I'm not actually going to fill this with samples, but no good M8 video would not touch on the sampling, even though this isn't necessarily how I see myself using the M8, but I digress. We'll come in here and fill this up with some random sequences. You can come in here and change our instrument type. We'll lose our changes. That's okay. I hope that wasn't to my other one. Yes, it was. Well, let's just go back in. I got 2 sequences running on that same instrument is why it sounds so weird. Bring this up to 50. Yeah, I mean, real quirks of using a sequencer like this. I know there's an undo button somewhere, but again, there's a button combo that I need to remember that I'm not familiar with off the top of my head. But then you look online and there are people who know this thing like the back of their hand and know it insanely well. So what I was trying to say with all that is if we get over to 50, oops, I am changing the instrument. Oops, it's all right. Shift right. We want to go to, again, all those synth machines are really underrated in mine, but we can also sample in, and again, this is where I'm pointing the electron boxes and be like, why can't I just have this on the digitone? But you can sample in from IO on the top. You can also sample from this mic on here, so if I just come in here, I don't know, I've never actually recorded directly in here, if you can believe that. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Yeah, so that's pretty, you know, amazing to consider, especially since you can slice on here too, which again, not something we had on a lot of the electron boxes at start. There's also a whole bunch of processing that can be done here. If we go in here, you can normalize it. So my voice is probably super quiet, as always, if I do that. If you do it repeatedly too, it'll also like bass boost it. So if I save that, enter name before saving, we'll randomize it again. We'll go ahead and save to samples. So if you're a field recording person, you might be super stoked on that. Test, 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 test. I don't know. Start there. Test, 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 test. So we'll come down and crop. Nothing to crop. Okay. No, I don't want to do that. Let's save it. No, let's do overwrite. Overwrite the sample. Yes. Test. So now. I think the beginning is a little too short, but we can get up here, come down and edit it. I'm spending a little more time with this just because I want to point out how insanely deep this is, right? And if you get down to the minutia, you can even see the waveform. Like, if there's anything that just demonstrates how insanely powerful this is, I hope this is it. So back out here. Yeah. And I didn't even talk about chorus, reverb. Just make it into a soundscape, right? Effects can also change. So this is chance, but again, unique to this instrument, you can come in here and change the envelope amount. These are those mods, but if you go into current instrument, and you could, I don't know, we'll have one of these play backwards. Reverse. And yes, this is the stupidest example ever, but I wanted to point out that, like, there's just impossible depth here, right? Imagine if this wasn't my voice, it could be something really interesting, right? Like, what if this was field recordings or, you know, soundscapes or an instrument? And the mic surprisingly sounds pretty good. Like, I mean, obviously it's not amazing, but, like, totally usable, right? And you can resample. There's, again, there's so much depth here. I made my hi-hat into a synth, I feel like. Yes, I did. No, not that one. All right, tafony. I prepared some actual songs in preparation for this video to say, Tracker, it's truly amazing what they've been able to do with it. An entire studio in a tiny package that's super portable. I got nothing but love for what they've been able to do with this, so I hope you're doing well. Take care. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next video.